Hello, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the JMac podcast. I'm John McMahon, and of course, this podcast is kindly brought to you by yourgarage.com. Use my promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on their website. And tonight, I'm joined by former Derry All-Star Paddy Bradley to run the rule on the club action that took place over the weekend. A bit of managerial news and all that goes with that. Paddy, how are you?
Not too bad, John. Yeah. Aye, look, good weekend sport. I suppose the big talking point was the Scottstown and Newbridge match, and what a game it was. Hey, it lived up to all expectations, and I have a soft spot for Newbridge, having managed them in the past, and I thought they did tremendously well to come back into that game. Scottstown were brilliant in the first half. It's a cruel way I suppose, decide an Ulster semi-final penalties, but I suppose there has to be a winner, and I suppose with the calendar and the schedule and everything else, it had to be played to a finish, and it's just disappointing that Newbridge didn't come out on the right side of it.
Yeah, geez, that was an absolutely terrific game of football yesterday. I think obviously for the conditions, it was maybe a slightly bit better than last weekend, but I just think Armagh is a terrific field and it just plays for remarkable games. And my God, that was some game we were treated to yesterday in the box
Aye,
at the athletic grounds. Yeah.
as a venue, I think at this time of the year, Armagh is second to none. I think it generates a fantastic atmosphere. The supporters feel as if they're right on top of the pitch, and there's very, very few bad games in the Ulster Club Championship whenever you're in Armagh. And as I say, it had everything yesterday. Obviously, Scottstown looked as if they were going to run away with it, but fair play to Newbridge, come back at them in the second half. Like Newbridge to won two Derry championships in a row, some achievement, and they've produced some really, really good footballers, some really, really good young boys coming through there, and they're going to be about for the next 7 or 8 years. Hey, they've obviously got Paddy McGrogan, Conor Doherty, Mark Doherty, and the likes of them boys, and I they'll be disappointed now that they weren't fit to make it into an Ulster final. I know as a club they're a very proud club. They're looking to make their mark on an Ulster club, but like Scottstown, very, very experienced, and I think that experience may be told in the end.
Mm, absolutely, Paddy. And obviously, the result in the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship final yesterday was Scottstown of Monaghan against, obviously, the aforementioned, as Paddy said, Newbridge of Derry was 220 to 220. And that was, of course, after extra time. And then Scottstown won 4-2 on penalties. So it just had everything. It was just a remarkable game of football. Obviously, conditions were not fantastic, and obviously the timeless Rory Beggan getting man of the match, and I have to really, the Hughes brothers remarkable throughout, and Kieran, like the old dog for the hard road, getting involved even a few bits of the ball and really showing that aggression and passion, and Jesus, Paddy, even the likes of Darren Hughes still going strong and firing over scores and running, breaking lines, running. He'd really do your heart good. Like it was a really good performance, and obviously on the Newbridge end of things, the Doherty brothers, I think they were fantastic as well. It was just a remarkable game of football, Paddy, for this time of year.
Aye, look, as I say, obviously I was Derry man. You're obviously shouting for Newbridge and haven't been managing them before, but you've got to give Scottstown huge credit. It's probably remarkable that that group hasn't won an Ulster club. They've had some really, really tough defeats down through the years. But no, you mentioned Began and the Hughes brothers. That experience really told. Just watch back Darren Hughes' penalty there, the one on penalty today. He sort of had it with the outside of the boot right onto the top corner. What a strike! He has been some servant to Scottstown and to Monaghan. And as you say, Kieran Hughes himself was flinging himself onto tackles with no real care for the body at all yesterday. And it was brilliant. And sort of the conditions made it. There was balls slipping and sliding everywhere, boys putting their bodies in the line. But some of the score taking, some of the 2 pointers from both sides was unbelievable given the conditions. And like as I say, the game and everything, and it's just a pity that, as I say, it had to be decided in penalties. It'd been great to see the two go at it again next week, but obviously, the calendar doesn't allow for that. But there had to be one winner, and fair play to Scottstown for digging it out in the end.
Yeah, like it was just such a workmanlike performance by, I suppose, both sets of teams, and as you said, like no one really deserved to lose. Like it was just such a titanic battle, and Newbridge looked dead and buried at numerous parts of that game. And I suppose maybe with a concern going into to the Kilcoo game now in a couple of weeks' time, Paddy, for Scottstown, would maybe that maybe a bit of edginess that Scottstown have, and maybe not being able to finish out games, and letting teams back into it. Because my God, Paddy, as you know, with Kilcoo, when they have the foot down the throat, they don't let it slip.
Aye, look, that would be a concern, is Scottstown letting teams back into games. I think there's a wee bit of a history of that down through the years. Like some of the football they played in the first half, some of their score taking was unbelievable, and you really thought with their experience they should have been seeing out that game handier than they did. But a lot of credit has to go to Newbridge, and I suppose the way the game's set up now is momentum plays a big part in games, and Newbridge just got a wee bit of momentum at the start of that second half, started to get a wee bit of a foothold in midfield, and got the scores when it mattered. But look, Scottstown were pretty, say get the job done. I thought Jack McCarron probably really stood up a wee bit too in extra time. Shane McGrogan marked him really, really well the last day, and marked him again well yesterday. But I'd say he showed a wee bit of class and a wee bit of cuteness on the ball too in extra time. So that'll be a really, really good game. But I suppose the two of them are very experienced. The two of them have been playing for so many years now in Ulster Club. Kilcoo obviously have got it done in the past where Scottstown haven't, so you'd have to favour Kilcoo because they have the experience of getting over the line. But look, that's going to be a really, really good game too. And again, it's going to be a humdinger. Two really, really experienced teams, two teams that, no shortage of physicality, two teams that have plenty of ballers. So hoping for a really, really good final in that one. And as I say, probably Kilcoo, you'd have to say, will start as favourites, but I wouldn't be surprised. The hurt of the last number of years and the setbacks it had, I wouldn't maybe could drive Scottstown on.
Absolutely. And then obviously with Darren Hughes, as I said there a couple of minutes ago, Paddy, and obviously the injury troubles he's had in the past, and he's a machine of a man for a man of his age, a man of his vintage, to be doing what he's doing, in the twilight of his career, to be driving things on down in Armagh yesterday. And my God, Paddy, he just kept going. He didn't stop. He just kept playing, and I think he was probably even the shoe in for man of the match yesterday.
Aye, look, I don't think anybody would begrudge Scottstown an Ulster title, particularly for the likes of Rory Beggan and Darren Hughes. Like as I said earlier on, he's been some servant to Scottstown and to Monaghan, and as you say, he's had his fair share of injury setbacks over the last number of years. But whenever he's been needed, down through the years for either Scottstown or Monaghan, he always produces a good side. He never shirks any responsibility. Top class player, and still getting it done. And as I say, nobody would begrudge seeing him win an Ulster club title.
And Derry clubs, obviously, Paddy, it goes to show maybe how strong it is up there. And obviously, Newbridge, to a degree, kind of did come out of nowhere to get as far as they did this year. And how strong is it up there at the minute, Paddy? Obviously, you're very close to it there at the minute in Derry. I was saying to Kevin McGurdy earlier on, there's 4 to 5 really strong Derry senior teams at this current minute in time.
Aye, look, Newbridge have won 2 in a row. Everybody was shocked that they won it last year. They sort of come out of nowhere. Maybe came and won it last year a wee bit before their time. Not a lot of people were tipping them to come and do back-to-back this year. They lost the first round against Dungiven, but that put them through the back door to it. And that actually probably worked well in their favour. They built up their games nicely and just were trying to get a wee bit of momentum through the competition, and then peak coming around the semi-final and final again. But it's very, very close up here. You still have Glen, who are knocking about and are still going to be, thinking that they're capable of winning the championship. Slaughtneil could have beaten Newbridge in a semi-final. There was a 2-pointer then that swung the game in Newbridge's favour, so that just shows you how close that was. And Marafelt are thereabouts too. They obviously beat Glen in the semi-final, so they probably would be the top 4 teams at the minute, and the top 4 teams in Derry this year were in the semi-final. I think that's the 2 semi-finals that everybody wanted to see, but there's plenty of good teams coming behind. There's plenty of good work being done in around the likes of Dungiven and Blahy and clubs like that. But no, the Derry Championship is very, very competitive, and as I say, fantastic achievement for Newbridge to be 52 back-to-back. I had Newbridge maybe about 7 or 8 years ago in intermediate and got them promoted. We won an intermediate championship, and we got promoted to the senior league, and they've just been adding in 1 or 2 new players every year, and they've got a real good mix there of experience and youth. They've piles of pace in their team, they've piles of good forwards, so as I say, they're going to be in the shake-up for the next 5, 6, 7 years. I don't think Newbridge are being anyway done at the minute. They're going to be thereabouts again.
God, Paddy, if we could play all our games in Armagh going forward, I think it would be just because it just makes for such an exciting games, and it's close. And I just think, Paddy, some of the point scoring yesterday was absolutely remarkable. The 2-pointers, and as someone said to me yesterday, don't leave a game early with these new rules and these new 2-pointers. It was a showcase of pure and utter brilliance yesterday, Paddy.
Aye, look, as I say, some of the point scoring given the conditions, and I don't know what it is about Armagh. You don't seem to be able to kick the same sort of scores maybe in the likes of Anoma or a Clonus. I don't know, is it a smaller venue, tighter venue? But I know some of the score taking and some of the 2-pointers they weren't just dropping over the bar. They were hammering over ball stop and everything. Like some of the striking yesterday was fantastic, and given the conditions, like, and look, hey, just as a game, it had everything, the way momentum swung and changed. And look, obviously, everybody thought Newbridge were dead. I think it was 10 points they were down. And one stage, Connor had his goal, and then Connor McAteer
Unbelievable.
point. I must admit had a wee fling on the draw at 8-1. So
Oh, brilliant! There we go. That paid for the point yesterday.
I got a few pound out of it. So, but no, I knew it was going to be a very, very close game. I actually, on the first day up in Oma, where the game was called off at half time, I seen enough to know in that first half, even though Scottstown were one before at half time, they obviously had the fortunate goal. I seen enough to know that I thought Newbridge had the pace in their forward line to give them a wee bit of bother. Underfoot conditions just weren't great in Noma that day and didn't play to Newbridge's favour. And again, the pitch was very, very slippy yesterday, but it was a wee bit firmer. And the likes of Sean Young and Conor McAteer, and that did give the Scottstown defenders plenty of bother. So, no, great game, hey, and look, hopefully the final's as good and as tight.
What does Scottstown need to do to beat Kilcoo in the final, Paddy? And what do they need to improve on? Because I think yesterday's performance, and in fairness, Rory Beggan, he's very, I suppose, partisan in his views after the game. He was basically saying if Kilcoo are watching that on, they'll be rubbing their hands. You know, he is probably a bit worried going into that game, I presume.
Aye, look, well, hey, they're going to have to stop the goals. Kilcoo have
Yeah.
a knack of scoring goals in big championship games. The one advantage I might see that Scottstown have is the midfield area. Like Scottstown are massive and around the middle field.
Mm.
Phillips, the two Hugheses, you've Began coming out from the nets. If they can dominate that midfield area and get their hands on the ball, Scottstown will give anybody a bother. But they'll need big games from the likes of Keary and Jack McCarron up front. They obviously would hope that Conor McCarthy would be fit to give them more. Like I actually commented yesterday whenever he came on, it was strange because I thought at that stage the game was over and they didn't need him, but it turned out they did. But if they could get him fit for a final, that would be a big plus for them too.
Yeah, really looking forward to that final now in a few weeks' time. And I think it's going to be a mouth-watering game. And I think it's probably high time Scottstown get their hand on that Ulster Club Championship because, my God, it is not for the lack of trying, Paddy, over the years. And then in the Leinster Club Championship action over the weekend, it was a tie of Kildare against Port Arlington of Laois. It was a tie, 19 points, Port Arlington, 11 points. Very convincing win for a tie in the end, Paddy. An 8-point win. They will be absolutely delighted with that. Former or current Kildare star, obviously, Niall Kelly, chipping in with 10 points. And then former Tyrone star Colin McCarron again playing a pivotal role, and two key cogs in that Athy team. And Athy, they will not be found wanting this weekend, Paddy.
No, and I suppose you look at how Naas have been performing and how close they were, and the fact that Athy were fighting over Naas probably told us that they were a decent side. As you say, Niall Kelly up front is very, very hard to mark, and he's a really good score getter. But look, you would have to favour Ballyboden in that one. You know what I mean? They're flying, they're clocking up some big scores too. But look, if they aren't without a chance, they're a decent side. I've seen them on RT one of them Saturday nights, and they've plenty of good ballers. But as I say, you would probably have to favour Ballyboden for Leinster, I think.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. It's an interesting one. Obviously, with Kildare football going forward, having a couple of strong senior teams will be very, very important for them. And then obviously, as the mentioned there, Tullamore of Offaly against Ballyboden Sedendus on Saturday. It was Tullamore 10 points, Ballyboden 219 in Glencoe Connor Park, Paddy, and obviously a very good win for a star-studded Ballyboden team. Obviously, with the likes of the Pascals and Killian McDade, and look, they're not alone. Leinster, Paddy, we're probably looking at all Ireland contenders here, aren't we?
Well, look, any team that wins the Dublin Championship generally is looking ahead to Leinster and all Ireland honours. No, and they look a very, very well-rounded team. Plenty of stars, as you say, and they're going to be big favourites for that. But look, you just don't know what at this time of the year. You just don't know with the new rules and everything else. You just don't know what will happen on any given day. So, Athy will fancy their chances as underdogs, but you definitely think that Ballyboden probably should win that with the likes of the Bascales, who seems to be hitting a wee bit of form. He's sort of gone off the boil a wee bit there with the county team, but he seems to be really finding his form again with the club.
And it's an interesting one, obviously, with Ger Brennan being the Dublin manager next year, Paddy. Like, and potentially a few headaches for next year going into it. Obviously, with the form Ballyboden are showing at the minute, a couple of these Ballyboden lads could be looking onto the Dublin panel again, or could they just be happy with the lot playing for the club?
It's hard to know. I suppose with Jerrigan in there, he'll be looking into just some fresh new talent. So there will be opportunities for new players to put their hand up for Ger and to try and make that squad. And that's one thing that Dublin don't have any shortage of is quality players throughout their club scenes. So I expect to see plenty of new faces on the Dublin panel this year under Ger. And it'll be interesting to see how he goes in that job.
Absolutely. And would you be looking at Ballyboden for the All Ireland this year?
Hey, look, hey, you need a lot of luck to win any competition. Now, as I say, the Dublin representatives are usually always thereabouts. But look, hey, the likes of Kilcoo, I have been there and done it before. Scottstown, if they come through Ulster, will fancy their chances. At this stage, any one of the teams left in it could go the whole way.
Do you, under obviously with Joe McMahon and Marty Curry there, and obviously two star-studded lads to have involved with a club team, do you feel Kilcoo have reached their best this year, or is there more work to do, Paddy?
It's hard to know. I've only actually seen highlights. I haven't actually seen Kilcoo on a full match. The night they played on live on TV, we had a gala dinner, so I didn't get to sit down and watch the full match. Hey, look, Kilcoo are always going to be thereabouts. Now, hey, they're very, very strong spine to their team. They have a real good running game. They defend really, really well. Even with the new rules, they pack out the defence and don't concede many goals. And then they hit teams in the break, and they have a real knack of scoring big goals themselves. So, look, Kilcoo are going to have a big, big say in it. I'm not sure in terms of betting who the favourites are at this stage, but look, any team that beats Kilcoo, you think, they're going to be thereabouts in the shake-up, and any team that can beat them would have a big say on it too, But I'm not even sure the draw, John. Ulster, who do Ulster representatives play this year in All Ireland semi-final?
Let me
Not even sure.
see.
Not even sure what way that draw works. But look, Kilcoo have obviously Scottstown to play first. So, but as any one of the two of them teams gets in All Ireland semi-final, they'll fancy their chances of going the whole way.
Yeah, no, it'll be really interesting to see. I just think Kilcoo have a tiny bit of work to do, but it'll be interesting to see how it all fares out, Paddy, in the end. And then last game of the weekend, it was in the Connacht Club Senior Football Championship final. It was St. Bridget's offers coming against Moycullen of Galway. It was St. Bridget's 116, Moycullen 114, of course, in Dr. Hyde Park. Disappointing for Moycullen and Galway there, Paddy, has to be said. There's a lot of chat about that team up in Galway. Obviously, our colleague Finian Handy unfortunately came to blows with them there a couple of weeks ago and just didn't get over the line in the Galway final. But Moycullen will be disappointed with that result. But don't get me wrong, obviously, St. Bridget's are a very strong team too.
Look, Moycullen at halftime looked as if they had the one in that game, but look, St. Bridget's really stepped it up in the second half. St. Bridget's will still be hurting from losing the All Ireland final to Glen a couple of years ago. Like, again, there's very little between any of these teams at the top level. Moycullen, as I say, probably had put themselves in a position to go on and win the game, but couldn't capitalise on it. And fair play to St. Bridget's, they used all their experience and know-how and got the big goal when it mattered, just with a few minutes to go. So and seen it out. So St. Bridget's are going to have a say come All Ireland final, semi-final, and final time too. Like, they're going to be hard beat, and to say they have the hurt of losing that final to Glen a couple of years ago when they probably were the better side. So again, a very, very good side with plenty of good ballers too. And again, Moycullen will be disappointed. Yeah, they've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years now, but that's definitely one that got away from them.
And obviously one that got away from Finian and Sutherland a couple of weeks ago as well. But hopefully Finian might go at it again next year, and we'll wait and see. He'll have a bit better joy this or next year if he does go at it again next year. So fingers crossed for Finian and the lads. And then just briefly on to this weekend, Paddy, Saturday the 6th of December in the Leinster Club Senior Football Championship final. It's a tie of Kildare against Ballyboden St. Enda's of Dublin, of course, in Croke Park at 4:30. So what are we thinking ahead of that one, Paddy?
As I say, look, I think Athy will throw plenty at them, but I just think Ballyboden have a fairly star-studded lineup. I think, as I say, Colin Pascal seems to be hitting a wee bit of form. Obviously, no stranger to Croke Park and the wide open spaces that it affords players. So I do think Ballyboden should get over the line there, but I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. I think Athy will really put it up to them. They're a seasoned enough side themselves. You only have to look at, as I say, Naas and how close they have came in the last couple of years to winning Leinster titles. So Athy are no bad side, but I think Ballyboden would be my choice to win that one.
Obviously, in Croke Park could be maybe nice to see that in a provincial ground, Paddy. I can't see many being about Croke Park Saturday night. To you?
No, but players obviously want to play in Croke Park.
Yeah.
It's obviously a fantastic surface and all the rest, but maybe in terms of atmosphere, whenever there's very few people at the game, it maybe doesn't generate the same sort of atmosphere. That probably would have been better served to be maybe in the likes of a Tullamore or somewhere, a nice partisan crowd and a smaller field. But look, Croke Park is the venue, and as I say, I think that'll really suit Ballyboden too.
be to a tie's detriment, but we will wait and see. And then obviously on Sunday in the Munster Club Senior Football Championship final, you have Dingle of Kerry against St Finbarrs of Cork in FBD Semple Stadium Thurles at 1:30.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of people are tipping Dingle possibly for All Ireland honours. First time they've won the Kerry Championship in quite a long time. Was it 70 or 80 odd years, wherever it was? So I don't look. Kerry and Cork games generally take on a life of their own, and I've no doubt that this club game will be the same. Finbars aren't a bad side. Haven't watched the highlights of them. They have plenty of good forwards, so that they're promised a good game, and that's 50-50 for me.
Could be potentially looking at a draw, and then you have a bit of a bit of skin in the game this one, and I have a bit of skin in this game as well. In the Ulster Club Intermediate Football Championship final, you have Cucullins of Cavan against Glenulan of Derry Clonus at 1 p.m. on Sunday, Paddy. So obviously a club up the road here for myself against your own home club, Paddy, Glenulan. So really look forward to that game on Sunday. I think Clonus will allow for that to be a crack of a game. So what is the atmosphere like at Glenulan at the minute, Paddy?
Yeah, look, we're looking forward to it. It's the first time the club's been in an Ulster final. I managed the boys obviously the last 3 years, and 2 years ago Ballyhaise beat us by a point in the semi-final stage, a game that we led from nearly start to finish, and we just we gave up a bad goal with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, and we were very, very unlucky. So I suppose the hurt of that is driving the boys on. Michael O'Kane, George's brother, now has took over the job of managing the side. He actually has introduced a couple of new young players in the last couple of years too, which is always good to see. We still have the outer hands running about there. Owen still comes on and does his cameo for 15 or 20 minutes. So look, hey, at this stage, you don't expect to meet any bad teams. Cucullins, from what I've seen of them against Clonus, are a big, strong side with plenty of good ballers. We think the game will be 50-50. And look, as I said earlier on, to win any final, you need a wee bit of luck. We probably had a wee bit of luck against Carrickmacross. We weren't at our best that day, but we got Neil Manickle scored a goal in the last kick of the game to force extra time, and then we were fit to push on. One thing I would say about the Clonus team, even going back to my time managing it, the amount of times that we scored last minute goals or last minute equalisers in that 3 years was phenomenal. They just keep on going to the final whistle, and they're probably going to have to need that on Sunday. So no, we're really looking forward to it. I'm just hoping the lads can do it. As I say, it's 100 years. We're 100 years this year, the club, and I know what a way to celebrate your 100 years to win your first Ulster title. It would mean the world to us. But look, Hollands are a very good side, as you know.
Yeah, they're really impressive, and yeah, like in fairness, they're probably really well oiled now for senior club championship here football in Cavan. And in fairness, Niall Lynch is obviously involved with them. He's the manager this year, and obviously Niall would have been manager of Mullahoran and Kingscourt in the last couple of years, and then he was with Cavan, Tommy Carr back in 2009, I think, and he obviously is Ronan Flanagan, former Cavan footballer, in training them. So look, there is a lot of skin in the game there, and they are stacked throughout. I don't know if you've seen any video of the Cullen's team, but obviously Skinner's probably been watching them with his team. But the likes of Evan Dowie and Adam O'Reilly, and they've a lot of runners from deep, and they're just very strong around the middle as well. So look, I think it will make for a really, really exciting game. I think it'll go down to the wire. Like, I would not be surprised if we did potentially go all the way to penalties, Paddy, because I just think it's going to be a humdinger, I really hope. But that Cullen's team are really, really strong this year, and we talk about our lads still doing it for the club. Skinner Bradley.
Owen's still doing it. Look, he himself will be disappointed that he isn't starting games at the minute, but he isn't as fit as maybe he had been the last couple of years. He had an injury there at the end of last year where he broke a toe and missed a fair bit of training that upset our campaign last year. But no, Michael has used him to good effect this year, and he is having a big impact just on the game. Like, both teams have been playing senior club football and league football, so the both teams are well versed in playing at a higher level and higher standard. So I think that's going to stand the two of them. I'm expecting like high standards. Like, we ourselves feel we are a bona fide senior club. We have been crying out to be playing senior championship for 3 or 4 years now. Just the structures in Derry haven't allowed it. Collins haven't chatting to Terry Farley, their chairman. I done a Zoom call with him funny on Friday, and they see themselves as a senior club in Cavan now too. So two really, really good sides that are going to go at it. And as I say, hopefully we just can get the wee bit of luck that we might need, and hopefully we'll get out the right side of it.
And in fairness, Cullen's like every player kind of chips in with scores, and they've just been so impressive. And they've obviously Corin Cavan panelist Niall Carlin, and Niall's always tasked with picking up the opposition's best player. Like so, Niall has had a fantastic year for club and county. He's just a seriously committed lad, and they've got a couple of boys from a club in Mahara. They had to fold, so a couple of lads have kind of transferred over, like so really benefited from that. The centre half forward Evan Dowie, he's a terrific footballer. He's kind of like he just springs the ball about. He's a lovely turn of pace as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Derek McKay brings him into the Cavan setup next year. And they've a lovely corner forward Adam Riley. So it does really make for a terrific game, Paddy.
Look, that's the beauty of Ulster Club is you're coming up against teams that you know nothing about. I actually yesterday went up to the club to watch the Newbridge match on the TV up there, and the lads we had actually had a coffee morning yesterday. It finished at
Okay.
11:30, and the lads have been in watching video for a couple of hours. That's how much video. Now, generally, the video work that our lads would do might be 15, 20 minutes, but obviously, given that they don't know anything about the Scacolin teams, they were sitting, I'd say, an hour and a half, 2 hours in a
Oh,
meeting.
Paddy, I'm sorry. I don't want to scare you, and I know it's a Monday. Mondays are scary, but this is a very good Cullen's team. I'm not even.
Well, I'm not going
Yeah,
to say but the
yeah,
boys will definitely have the homework done. Like
yeah.
I've been very, very close to the setup. I don't like to ask too many questions, but I do know that they have. You've mentioned some of the Collins lads there. I do know that
Mm.
they already have their matchups already decided, and men have got individual DVDs of different players that they're going to be tasked with marking and stuff. So, look, they'll have their work done, but you're right, they are a very, very, very good side, and we're going to have to
Mm.
be at our best. And as hopefully, as I say, hopefully we can hang in the game the way we have been doing in Ulster in the games to date this year, and hopefully, as I say, we get a wee bit of luck towards the end of it, and hopefully we can win it. But look, it's going to be a massive ask.
Yeah, it'd be a tight game. And obviously, I was talking to Conor McAliskey there a couple of weeks ago, the week leading into the Clonot and Cullen's game, and he thought that they were fully prepared and they were fully switched on. So maybe some teams are potentially underestimating maybe how good Cullen's are. But no, I really hope that's a cracking game on Sunday, Paddy, without a shadow of a doubt. And I suppose just your thoughts. Obviously, you've been involved in county teams and club teams and managing. What's, I suppose, your thoughts on video analysis and everything that goes with it? Like, do we tend to overanalyze teams, Paddy? Is there enough of it done? Are we doing not too much of it? Or what's your thoughts on all that?
I, it's everything else. Video analysis is important, but and the right portion of it. Like I do know different players that I have worked with don't like to sit down for any more than 15 or 20 minutes because it's just maybe it loses its effect after that. I think if you've the right boy doing the video analysis, picked out the right clips, and you're very, very precise about what it is you want to show, I think if you do 15, 20 minutes any given night, that's more than enough. As I say, players tend to lose focus, in my opinion. Even whenever I was playing, different managers were had us sitting in different video rooms up around Owenbeg where you might have been sitting in for a full hour or an hour and 15 minutes. But, at that stage, it sort of lost its effect. You want to have one or two messages
Yeah.
you want to get across. You want to have 3 or 4 clips that you want to show. And I think it's important that you're clear about what that is. And as long as you are, and as long as it can be done in a proper time frame, I think it's very, very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of the way the county game has gone with the over analysis, but you do want to get the right blend. You want to keep players interested, and I suppose asking as much questions as possible, Paddy.
Aye, well, look, your video analyst will then go and cut clips of individual players who I might be picking up or somebody else might be picking up, and that's important to let you go home and then maybe watch that in your own time. I don't think necessarily, but the whole team needs to be sitting watching a specific player for 20 minutes and then moving on to another player. So I say the right amount at the right time can be very, very beneficial, but I do know that maybe some managers would sit for hours and hours with teams, and I just think from a personal point of view, I didn't like doing that, and anybody that I have worked with recently would be the same sort of feelings. That has to be to the point, and 15, 20 minutes, and then get out on the training field. And at the end of the day, that's where matches are won and lost, is on the training field, not in the video analysis room.
Mm, absolutely, Paddy. And obviously, a bit of news regarding yourself. You've been announced as the joint manager with Fergal Logan with Donamore. So, are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, 100%. Throwing football is very, very competitive. Lots of really, really good sides. It's a really, really good, strong league. It's one of the best championships in Ulster, if not Ireland. Much talked about every year. Donaghmore are one of a number of teams who feel that they're up and coming and they've a chance to maybe go ahead and maybe challenge or try and win it. So I'm looking forward to getting involved and looking forward to starting with them, and obviously looking forward to working with Fergal, who obviously is an All Ireland winner himself with throwing. He's somebody I've known for a long time now, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
And obviously the challenge lies ahead. We know, as we are kind of talking off air, about how competitive the Tyrone Club Championship it is, and it's dog eat dog up there without a shadow of a doubt. Every game, every championship game is so important. So I suppose you're looking forward to the cut and trust nature of it.
Yeah, total change from Derry. Like in Derry, the league structures, nobody really tries. The league's not that important. Nobody really cares about winning the league. But in Tyrone, they go all out for the league. And if you look at the Tyrone League in any given year, 4 or 5 points could separate first to 10th or first to 12th. It's so competitive. Either in or in the bottom of the table, it's really competitive all the time too. So now every game, league game is nearly treated like a championship game. And as I say, that's in stark contrast to Derry, where sort of league football doesn't really matter anymore. So I'm really looking forward to being involved in the sharp end of it like that.
And obviously work with the likes of Fergal Logan, and obviously Fergal had great success with the Tyrone senior football team, and obviously Fergal had a bit of a health scare there a couple of years ago, and fingers crossed he's on the mend and he's healthy and fit as a fiddle. Obviously working with him will be a great experience too.
Yeah, look, I very clued in. We've had a number of meetings and conversations over the past couple of weeks already, and I know I'm getting myself involved with a serious operator, so I'm really looking forward to working with him and learning from him. He's one of the best in the business. He's well known throughout the country, well known throughout Tyrone. Carries a lot of respect, a lot of clout, and yeah, delighted to be getting the opportunity to work with him.
Mm. Absolutely. And I suppose, Paddy, kind of briefly touching on to obviously we were a month away from the Mechanic Cup. Obviously, the Mechanic Cup will be back in earnest at the start of January. So, are you, I suppose, looking forward to maybe seeing what Derry have next year, and obviously look forward to the Mechanic Cup too?
You're always looking forward to seeing new players. The likes of Sean Young, who's impressed there with Newbridge this
Mm.
year, and Conor McAteer. The likes of them lads will probably get a run out in the Mechanic Cup this year. I suppose Derry's Achilles heel in the past couple of years has been the over reliance maybe on Shane McGuigan. So if we can try and unearth a few new forwards in the Mechanic Cup ahead of the start of the National League, that would be a big bonus. We're obviously in Division Two this year, and it would be very important, in my opinion, for the current Derry team to get back up into Division One as quick as possible. But it'll not be easy. Tyrone's down there too, and there's plenty of tight and competitive games in Division Two. But I do think that Derry have the ammunition to get back up into Division One, and then that'll set them up nicely for the championship.
And are you a supporter of having the Mechanic Cup back?
I think so. Yeah, I think as a manager too, to have a wee bit of a pre-season competition to get 2 or 3 games ahead of the National League is important. Look, we've already mentioned earlier on, the calendar is very congested. There's no doubt about that. You even look at playing the likes of yesterday's match, or the last 2 weeks match, and the one in the rain, and how you would love to be playing showcase football like that, club matches like that, and better pitches at a better time of the year. But it is very hard to squeeze everything in. But I do think these pre-season competitions are important for managers to try and get a look at players, because you don't want to try and blood new players in National League games where the stakes are too high. So having 2 or 3 games in the McKenna Cup is beneficial.
Mm. And obviously with Derry, like there has been a lot of chopping and changing in the last couple of years, Paddy. Obviously with the likes of Mickey Hart and Paddy Tally stepping away and maybe not ending fantastically well, and obviously a good lot of pressure now on Kieran Meena probably to deliver the goods for Derry, and obviously what their goals will be for the next couple of years. But I suppose the sporadic nature maybe of the Derry management job in the last couple of years, Paddy, what's it been like up there?
I will look, as you would know yourself, probably from down in Cavan, John. It's only hearsay what you hear. You don't
Yeah.
really hear the truth of what's going on in the setup. Now, if you were to believe hearsay, the past couple of managers, the players weren't really playing for them. It seems to be, but that they all really wanted Kieran Mina. They all really like Kieran Mina. So there's a bit of pressure on the players to deliver, because, as I say, the word would have been that they weren't really sort of playing for the previous couple of managers. So it'll be interesting that now they have a manager supposedly that they really want to play for, that they're all in for. So the pressure's on them to finally deliver the goods. Like there's a lot of them boys aren't getting any younger. Mention Shane McGuigan, Brenton Rodgers. The likes of them lads now are starting to come to the 30s. They've obviously been great servants. I'm not saying they're any way done at all. No way. There's still plenty of football in them yet, but aren't getting any younger. They've had them 2 Ulster titles. It's important for them players to get back to winning ways and challenging for Ulster again. And I think the draw has been fairly kind to Derry. They have a good draw against Antrim at home in the first round to hopefully get them up and running. And then they obviously have the winners of Monaghan and Cavan, who, again, I'm not saying won't be an easy match, but they have avoided Donegal and Tyrone and Armagh on the other side of the draw.
Mhm.
So Derry will feel that is a very good draw for them, and they'll feel that if they can get a good Division Two campaign, get promoted, that they'll have a good chance of shaking that Ulster Championship again.
And Paddy, like, it's a really interesting one. Obviously, you've been involved with in the game for so long, and playing into things, and managing things, training teams, so on and so forth. Like, how disheartening can it be, maybe for like a county board when players are, as you like, as you, I know you don't want to believe hearsay, but when they're not playing for a manager, do you feel maybe feel that the current players are, there is that kind of sense of entitlement that, like, if you're not good enough, we not play for you, like, or do you feel it's gone a bit kind of rotten to a degree?
There seems to
Not
be
just Derry, but across the
no
board.
on a general scheme. It seems to be that players have a hell of a lot more power than they did whenever I was playing. Now, like, I played under 4 or 5 different Derry managers. You had to play for whoever was put in front of you. That was the end of it. You hadn't to say. But it does seem to be the case now that the players have a hell of a lot of power when it comes to selecting managers, selecting background teams, selecting who's involved with squads. And it does seem that the county boards, not just Derry, yeah, you're on about all over the country. It seems that the county boards are nearly going out of their way to make sure that the players are happy. And I do think it's important that maybe players have an input in setups, but not to the point whereby players maybe are deciding, oh, I'm not going to play for him or he's not good enough for us. So I do think maybe it's gone a wee bit OTT, in my opinion. Look, every county is different, I suppose. And again, you can't believe hearsay, but look, Derry do seem to have got the man that they wanted this year, as I say, and that's why there seems to be a wee bit of pressure, I think, firmly on the players here, because they haven't maybe performed to the levels that we know they're capable of performing at in the last couple of years. So now they've got everything they wanted. They're away to Tenerife next week on a week's training camp. So there's been no expense spared in terms of their preparation for the season ahead. So it would be good to see them back delivering again if they can.
And was it disappointing, Paddy, obviously, with the news breaking about Paddy Toddy there a couple of months ago about stepping away, when the original plan was to potentially be there for the few years and, drive Derry football forward?
Aye, well, look, again, I don't know what the ins and outs of that, of Paddy leaving was. Was it mutual consent? Did he himself leave because maybe he felt that the players weren't playing for him, or was he pushed? I don't know. As I say, back in the day, there was different stories you'd have heard out of different county setups. You'd have knew sort of nearly half exactly what was going on, but everything's kept sort of cloak and dagger at the minute, and you don't really hear the real story unless you're sort of in the inner circle. I don't really be about Owenbeg that much. Sort of tend to concentrate on what's happening here and around my own club, and heavily involved in the underage there. So I see it's hard to know unless you're part of the inner circle. You don't really know what exactly is going on up there.
It would be some egg in the face of Kieran Meena if it doesn't work out for him.
Aye, well, look, I suppose a couple of years ago, Kieran was offered the job, and I think the story coming out was he didn't want to be a manager. So 2 years further down the line, he is going to be a manager now. So, there's probably a wee bit of pressure on his shoulders, but he has been involved with the group for quite a long time, and he knows all the players inside out, and he knows Derry football inside out. So, look, look, if the players wanted him, and he's the boy that they were set and playing for, then it probably is a good fit for everybody. But as I say, the pressure is firmly on everybody that that he delivers and the players deliver, because as I say, they definitely haven't been performing anywhere near the levels that they're capable of in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mixed bag now the last few years, but and kind of on next year, like, what would you be kind of looking at? Who would be the teams you'd be kind of pointing your finger down on? Maybe when you're reading the paper, obviously with the likes of Kerry there, the Kieran Donaghy in, and obviously Galway there with Pork Joyce staying on, and Donegal keeping Jim McGuinness, and obviously Michael Murphy staying put too, and obviously with Dublin with the likes of Ger Brennan going in there, and Dean Rock going in, and Stephen Cluxton, and so on and so forth. So I suppose, what do we think for next year?
Aye, well, you've hit a lot of them. Kerry, obviously, current All Ireland champions, are going to be back looking to defend their title. We all know the quality of players they have, the amount of forward power they have. The new rules shut them down to the ground. And Joe O'Connor, they're one of the best midfielders, one of the best ball winners in the country. Donegal are going to be back under McGuinness again. You say Michael Murphy's back, committing for another year. It must have took a hell of a toll on his body, the championship this year, because he didn't play any club football at all. And it's sort of interesting that he is coming back. Whenever you see that he wasn't fit for the club, I thought maybe the season playing with Donegal again maybe took too much out of the body, but he is committed for another season, and that's a bonus for them. I think it's a big year for Tyrone. Obviously, Malik O'Rourke went in there last year. Didn't really hit the ground running. He was late into it. They get relegated to Division 2, but Division 2, for them mightn't be a bad division to be playing in this year. It'd be fit, like throwing off piles of players coming through. Obviously, won the last couple of under 20 titles and whatnot. So there's a sort of period, a transition sort of happening there. There's a lot of young boys that are champing a bit to try and get into a break into that team. The likes of Owen McElhone, for example, who to me is a fantastic footballer, and the like. So this is a big year for Tyrone, and Maggie obviously has a fantastic record with Glen and with Ariel Kieran and with Fermanagh and Monaghan, and all the teams even way. So you'd expect Tyrone to come with something a wee bit different this year. So, look, it's going to be interesting this year. Mayo again under Andy Moran. What will he bring different? They've obviously been sort of bridesmaids too many times. And then Galway, you say Pádraig Joyce is back for another year. They've been knocking on the door. Can they finally get the job done? So, look, it's going to be an intriguing season again. You've 7 or 8 teams there that I feel are all sort of capable of winning it. But like I said earlier on, it takes a lot of luck to win in All Ireland. There's a lot of football to be played between now and the end of the National League before we even start to look at that.
Kieran Donaghy obviously going into Kerry there, Paddy, and I think he's one of your old Aussie Rules teammates. I think obviously you guys played with each other and you made a hell of a partnership. He is going to be some addition to the kingdom.
Yeah, very well regarded down and around Armagh. And so I suppose Armagh's loss is Kerry's gain, and as if Kerry needed any more bonuses or boosts. But you'd expect that Kieran's a real good way with him. He's a great fella, and you'd really expect that that'll actually help Kerry even further. So that's a big bonus for them, getting him involved down there. There was chat that maybe he might take on a job himself, maybe some of the sort of smaller, weaker counties down around Munster. So I'm sure Kerry are delighted to have him on board.
There's talk of Galway as well. I think he would have been some addition with Pádraig Joyce. And obviously my own County Cavan, Paddy, with the likes of Dermot Scully gone in, with Derek McCabe there, and obviously we've Chris Collins in as well. So it takes a few Derry men to shake things up.
Aye, Dermot and Chris would have a relationship, been involved in on underage squads in around Derry. I do know that Chris was he's in helping Glenallen this year. He had been in helping me the previous couple of years as well. Very, very good coach. I do know that Dermot had tried to get him on board with Westmeath, but Chris has started a new job with European GAA, and it didn't suit. But it suits now this year to go into him with Cavan. So that'll be interesting to see how they go. Cavan have obviously I suppose, a bit of a sleeping giant. They'll be disappointed with how things have been the last couple of years, but no, Chris and Dermot definitely are two good coaches, and that's two good recruitments for Dermot.
Yeah, no, it would be really interesting to see how it works. And obviously, Dermot's doing really good work with kind of Scottstown. And I suppose, Paddy, like mixing that, you're working with a club and a county team, like you'd wonder how lads manage it.
Yeah, I suppose it's full year round, but there's more and more people, as you know, are involved with counties, and then straight after the counties finish, they're straight on with a club. I don't know where they get the time, some of these men, but it's just the keenness, I suppose, to be involved with teams and involved in top class setups. So no, fair play to anybody who puts their hands up and puts their neck in the line and takes on these big jobs, because it's not all smelling the roses. Like you get plenty of hassle and plenty of stick, and there's plenty of hard work and plenty of late nights out of the house, and for men that have families and whatnot, it's plenty of sacrifices that are made.
Obviously, we've Mark Doran as well. Mark has took the Antrim job, and he has took the Clon Aaron job as well. So these lads must have very understanding wives.
Well, this is it. Like, no, and to be honest, whenever I was involved with Donegal myself a couple of years ago, I was still involved in my own club, Glenallen. Thankfully, there was no driving involved there, but I know it took its toll on home life a wee bit, because you're out nearly every night of the week, like, and I tell you, it does be very, very tiring. And what a lot of people, I suppose, don't maybe understand or don't see is the work that goes on then whenever you're in the house. Like, you're never in the house doing nothing. You're always doing a bit of video work, or you're always preparing the next session. So it's nearly a full-time job. And as I say, fair play to anybody that puts their hand up and puts their neck in the line for doing these big jobs, because as I say, it's not all fun the whole time, and you do get plenty of stick and plenty of hassle.
How did you find that time with Donegal, Paddy?
Interesting. Obviously got involved there with Aidan and Paddy Carr, and then there obviously the players sort of made a stance, and they wanted Paddy to step down after a couple of National League games, which was difficult to be caught in the middle of that. Now they were keen for me and Aidan to stay on, which we did, and we sort of felt that we turned things around a wee bit. Obviously beat Monaghan in Healy Park that day. Went down to Clare and beat Clare in the championship, so maybe put a wee bit of a pride back in the jersey after it was a disappointing season and been relegated in the league. It probably became clear to me and Aidan that at the time Donegal just needed a Donegal man back in charge, and McGuinness was the man they wanted. And look, you see the impact that he has had in the county this last couple of years. We were riddled with injuries that year, like 7, 8, 9 men were unavailable to us, which sort of any chance we had of success, we were undone with the fact that 6 or 7 of our best players weren't available. But it was thoroughly enjoyable. There's no such thing as a bad experience. It was difficult at the time, but again, you sort of learn from all these experiences, and I'm glad I was involved there for that year. Learned a lot from it.
And obviously these county jobs, Paddy, like, and you do look at a lot of Division 1 and 2 counties, like, and I think you have to have a very, very obviously understanding partner, or even like a very understanding, obviously, work-life balance as well, Paddy, because like realistically, when you do, and I was talking to Kevin Gurley about this earlier on, like a lot of these inter-county managers are either retired, they've took maybe career breaks. I think I do know Ray Galligan took a 2-year career break to even manage Cavan. So like it must be incredibly time consuming.
It's a full-time job, yeah. Incredibly demanding. Like, I was lucky enough in that I was teaching, and I was fit to get away early in the day. But like literally, you were leaving school and heading straight to convoy. We're Donegal training, and then you weren't back to 11, 12 o'clock at night. And back whenever we were playing, or I was playing, you train 2 nights a week, maybe 3 nights a week, game at the weekend. Whereas now it's 6, 7 days a week. It is full time, and the job of a manager so demanding that players expect you to be there, 3 or 4 hours before training, 3 or 4 hours after training's over. So yeah, it's nearly a full-time job. And as you say, most managers like Kieran Mina, I do know, is working on shared education. He is a teacher, but he's out in a shared education post this year, and I do believe that he's working from Owenbeg. That's his daily office, so he's nearly in Owenbeg all the time. That's where he sort of does his day-to-day work, and he's obviously there taking care of Derry business at the same time.
Is it sustainable, Paddy? Like, I think we have discussed this on the podcast before, but is there a future in all this?
Well, I don't see the demands ever decreasing. If anything, the demands are only ever going to increase. Now, then that begs the question. I know it's been brought up about payment of managers, and should centrally they be paid a certain or set amount of money, because it is nearly sort of a given now that most inter-county managers are nearly full time. But the demand's been placed on inter-county managers, coaches, strengthening and conditioning coaches. The demand's placed on actually the financing of the whole setup are through the roof. It's more or less everything but professional and word.
Can we be more efficient with our time, or can we be more efficient with the amount of people that is involved in a county team at the minute, Paddy?
It's hard to know. Like what a typical county team, backroom team consists of 20, 25 people. Like it's crazy whenever you think of the amount of medical personnel, doctors, multiple physios, strength and conditioning coaches. There might be 2 or 3 of them, nutrition, all that there. So
Mm.
it is mad when you think about it for still what is an amateur sport. So you just wonder where it's going to stop or where it's going to end, or in terms of the playing side of things, it is definitely a young man's game. Like, have you even? I don't know. Has there ever been a study done on it? But what percentage of inter-county players now are plus 30, have got 1 or 2 children, or are in full time jobs? Like, most of them are students, or are they working part time, or some of them, I don't know, mightn't be working at all. It is crazy. Like, whenever you think of the demands being placed on players as well, and you do wonder where it all is going to end.
Yeah, because I even look at some of the Cavan lads there, like, and a lot of them would be probably students. Some of them might even have kids, and I think he's rushing care to my own clubmate. Like, he had a child there a couple of months ago, like, and I'm not even sure if he's going to be in a position to commit next year. And a lot of lads potentially haven't gone back. Like, and like, I heard even some of the other 20 lads were doing a pit session, and they think they landed into breath at 7 o'clock at home, as you right a couple of minutes ago said, about 10 or 11 o'clock. Like, it's crazy, buddy.
Aye, and look, even like I mentioned the fact that Derry are heading to Tenerife next week. So one of the Derry selectors is teaches my school, so he's had to take a full week off work. in December to head to an inter-county training camp. And again, our school, in fairness, we're very happy to grant them the week off, but not every employer would be, would be the same. And where does it end? Like, I'm sure there'll be different weekends that Derry will be away down the country doing training weekends ahead of different National League games, different championship games, and players are having to take time off work early on a Friday or take time off work on a Monday to go and obviously prepare and play for the county. And I say you need very, very understanding employers and understanding bosses, and that mightn't be always possible for some people. And then you wonder, then are they at a disadvantage?
Yeah. God, it's very much relevant now, I have to say. And I suppose lastly, Paddy, we had the All-Star Awards there a couple of weeks ago, and David Clifford with his third Player of the Year award in a row. He is just remarkable.
He's lucky something else. Class player. A bit like Messi, I suppose. You back to that Donegal game. The way sort of Messi would walk about a field playing soccer, and then he just kicks into life. He looks disinterested for maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then away he goes. Clifford was sort of the same in that All Ireland final. So there was periods that he just walked about and took Brenton McCole for a walk here, there, and everywhere, and then he just sprung into life and was kicking ridiculous points or 2 pointers. Like he's just something else. He is unmarkable, and as I say, the new rules really shut him down to the ground. You can try and double up as much as you can on him, but like whenever you're as accurate as he is with both feet from the distances he can score from, he's just something else. He's a phenomenal player, hey, and joy to watch. Like,
Is it a debate anymore? Are we Whitson the best ever?
I probably. I suppose them sort of tags don't be labelled to you until the end of your career to see what he finally does win when all's said and done, when all's over. But you've got to say the trajectory he's on at the minute and what he's won to date, that whenever he does finish, that people will acknowledge that he probably is the best player of this generation and maybe the best player there ever was yet.
And even kind of like back in the day when Marco was tighter, maybe when you were kind of starting off, like would David probably still would have survived back then? Would you have?
Oh, I think so, and I think even with packed defenses in the last few years, he still stood out, and now the game's a wee bit more open, and there's more one-to-one battles, and we're really seeing the beauty of him. Look, hey, Kerry have produced unbelievable players. Morris Fitz, the Gooch. He just seems to be a combination of all them. He's that good. Like the Gooch's trickery, his ability to get goals, his ability to get separation from a man. Like David has all that. Plus, he has power, he has strength, he's the ability to win high ball. He can win it high, he can win it low. Look, he's just something else. Like, and for anybody, like I'm just thinking back to even whenever Chris McKay, who did as probably good a job as anybody on him whenever Derry played them, but he still ended up with 6, 7 points. Whenever you have a player who, as I say, you're marking as tight as he's been marked, and you think you've done a good job on him, but he's still ending up with 1-5, 1-6, 1-7 on a bad day, then that just shows you the quality of that player. Like, and that's just David Clifford all over. Like, and even just watching him too for the club, obviously with the more social media and with Clubber and all these different stations now where you can see club football now from down the country, just actually watching him too in some of them intermediate championship games for Fossa, some of the things he's doing, he's something else. Like.
Yeah, kind of makes the game worth watching. And obviously, Shane Walsh as well. Hopefully, Shane can get back to his very, very best because I think they are on song when they're on song. I think they're probably the two best we have at this current minute in time. Paddy, that was an absolute pleasure. Thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is kindly brought to you by orgorich.com. Use my program JMac Podcast to get 15% off on the website. Paddy, thank you very much.
Good ball, John. Cheers. Appreciate it.